Sheila Gunn Reid on assignment in northern Iraq. I'm here documenting the work being done as part of our Save the Christians project, started back in 2018. I arrived in the country late yesterday evening, and with our aid worker contacts on the ground, we made the 2-hour-plus trip drive from Erbil to Dohuk. This morning we're at a secure hotel that is being used to process Christian and Yazidi refugees. At this hotel, they process about 2,000 Christian refugees per week. Today, the aid workers will prepare the refugee status paperwork for about 200 people. I was already warned last night that I will see and hear some horrible things today, like mothers signing away their parental rights so that their children can make it to safety. It's all happening behind me in this converted conference room. Let's head in and see the lives being changed and saved here today.
My name is Sharb El-Shami. I'm the project manager for everything we're doing here. Basically what we're doing is, after rescuing all these people, we'll bring them here to Kurdistan, to an hotel here. And there's a team who comes to fill all their applications so they can apply for the Australian embassy. So basically what we're doing is taking their stories, what happened to them, filling all kind of forms that the embassy requests, the Australian embassy requests. And then we take this file to the embassy. They proceeded, then there's other steps. We take them to the interviews, to the IUM, until they get their visa and be able to travel to a safer place, to Australia.
Now, I have to be very careful about taking their photos. Why is that?
Because a lot of them has been rescued recently, especially the one that escaped or was released from Bagos and Camp Al-Hol, which was recently freed from ISIS. So a lot of them just came from ISIS, and they are afraid. Actually, there's a lot of risk of them. If their face go on media, they could be traced by ISIS and killed, especially that a lot of them have information. A lot of them have been with emirs and big people in ISIS. That's why, mostly why.
Now, you're also screening these refugees. You're also screening them for extremism because some of them have been with ISIS for so long.
Yes. This is one of our main job here, is to investigate everything. Because the brainwashing, especially for small children, and there's and there's few women who felt in love with their kidnappers. So our job is to specify these people and to highlight them to the embassy and to others.
So what happens from here? So you're starting their paperwork here. You're going to see about 200 refugees today. Where do they go from here?
Actually, it's we have around 50 families today, which is more than 200. And as I told you, from here, when we filled everything, we were gonna send the files to the Australian embassy, and the Australian embassy will proceed their files, and then they will call them again for another interview directly with the Australian, and then they will go to medicals, do their medicals, and then they will be granted the visa.
Some of these families have been through quite a lot. Do you have any stories to share? I know they don't want to talk to me on camera.
There's a lot of stories. There's a lot of heartbreaking stories. Most of these women have been sold many times, have been raped, have been beaten, mistreated. And if you can read and hear the stories, it's heartbreaking, really. The trauma they've been to, the life, it's amazing they are still able to continue their life. They are still, a lot of them don't even smile till now, after they've been released for like 6 months or 1 year or even 2 years, and they still don't smile. You can see their faces. It's impossible what happened in this 21st century. In the savageness that happened is unbelievable, unacceptable.
A lot of these refugees, I would say 75% of them are children. Is that what you're seeing across the board?
There's a lot of children, mostly that came with and there's a lot of children who were kidnapped with their mothers. There's a lot of women actually also. The children were separated from their mothers. The older one, yani around 8, 9, 10 years old, they were taken and they were trained on weapons, how to use weapons. They were taught Quran and Muslim Sharia. The older one, 12, 13, were even sent to battles. And I have one child here. He's like, he's 15 now, but back then he was like 12 or 13 years old. He was forced to go and fight, and he was hit by an airstrike, and his leg was chopped off. And there's a lot of story like this, sadly. A lot of children were used for the war. They were forced to go. If they refused to go, they were beaten or even savagely injured because they refused to go to the war to fight. And a lot of them were killed or badly injured.
And that's just the boys. I suppose the girls had an equally bad fate.
Even worse, the girls. And sadly, 10 years old girls, 11 years old girls were raped. They were raped. They were given drugs so they won't fight, and they were raped. A lot of them, sadly. Beast. These men were evil. I don't know what to say. Yeah.
Oh, I guess my last question is, why do you do this work? Because this is not easy work. There are other things you could be doing. Why are you here?
Because it's wonderful to give back the hope for people. These people they have nothing. They lost their homes. They lost their families. They lost their dignity. Everything was taken from them, and it's nice to give back hope. It's nice to give back hope. It's nice to look at their face and see the hope of a new life, of a better life in a different place. Because even here, after they were released, they are living in camps in really bad conditions. And we're visiting them. They are barely eating. They are living in tents next to each other. There's no privacy. Nobody is working. They cannot get. And they stay in the same clothes for maybe a month because they cannot get any clothes. It's a very hard life here. So it's a good feeling to be able to help people, to give them hope of a better life.
It's been a steady stream of Christian and Yazidi refugee families through the conference room behind me. Now, many refugees didn't want to speak on camera with me because, well, they don't want to speak publicly about their trauma and humiliations, or because they're concerned about reprisals from ISIS against them while they wait to be relocated. And they also fear for the family members that they are leaving behind. Now, I sat in on some screening interviews, all of which are done by volunteers, to see the sorts of detailed vetting these Christian refugees have to go through just to start their paperwork to give to the Australian embassy. In fact, all of the over 250 refugees seen here today will be headed to Australia because, unlike Canada, Australia still prioritizes Christian and Yazidi survivors of genocide in their immigration system. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. To support the important work of documenting our efforts to help Christian survivors of genocide in Iraq and to continue supporting them, please go to SaveTheChristians.com.